There is a fundamental illusion holding the entire celebrity economy together. It's a number at the top of a screen, a metric that dictates who gets the multi-million-dollar brand deals, who gets cast in the blockbuster movies, and who gets to control the cultural narrative. But what happens when the platform hosting that number decides to turn on the lights and exposes that millions of those adoring fans never existed at all? Bro, let's be entirely real for a second. We worship numbers. If someone has 100 million followers, we automatically assume they are a god walking among men. But there was a point in internet history where the entire system completely fractured. I'm talking about the purges. The days when Instagram and Twitter woke up and chose absolute violence, hitting the delete button on tens of millions of fake accounts in a matter of hours. The media called it a cleanup. The influencers called it a catastrophe. And honestly, it was the most brutal, humiliating reality check in the history of Hollywood. Because you have to remember the absolute lawlessness of the early social media era. Before the algorithms got smart, influence wasn't about engagement. It was a pure, unadulterated numbers game. And in a game where numbers equal cash, people will do whatever it takes to rig the scoreboard. And this is why this moment in pop culture history is so incredibly aggressive. We all know people buy fake followers today, right? It's a known thing. But back then, the biggest stars on the planet were caught absolutely red-handed. We are talking about A-listers losing 3, 4, sometimes 5 million fans, literally overnight. People went to sleep as the most popular human beings on Earth and woke up exposed as complete frauds. It was a digital massacre. This is the story of the multi-billion-dollar fake follower cartel, and the nights the tech giants finally decided to slaughter their own golden calves. Like, just imagine the absolute sheer panic of being a celebrity publicist on the morning of the purge. You've spent the last 3 years pitching your client as the voice of a generation to Louis Vuitton, and suddenly their audience shrinks by 40% in 6 hours. You can't put out a press release for that. You can't hire a lawyer. You just have to sit there, completely humiliated in front of the entire world, while everyone realizes your empire was built on a foundation of ghost accounts. Before we dive into Act 1, I just want to say a massive thank you to everyone who has been watching. If you love deep dives into the dark side of the internet, PR disasters, and the brutal reality behind the influencer economy, do me a huge favor and hit that subscribe button. And leaving a like seriously helps push this video in the algorithm. Alright, let's get into the purge. To understand why the Great Purges were necessary, you have to understand the absolute desperation of the early 2000s attention economy. Social media was transitioning from a fun, casual networking tool into a weaponized corporate marketplace, and the only currency that mattered was the follower count. Honestly, it was a completely different Wild West back then. Today, brands care about conversion rates and audience retention. But in 2013, a brand would just look at your page, see that you had 10 million followers, and hand you a check for $250,000 to hold up a detox tea. It was that simple. And because the barrier to entry for brand money was entirely based on one single metric, it created a massive, industry-wide arms race. Everyone was inflating their numbers. If your rival gained 1 million followers, you needed to gain 2 million, just to maintain the illusion of dominance. The pressure didn't just come from ego, it came from the industry itself. Casting directors began choosing actors based on their social media reach. Record labels prioritized artists with massive online footprints. The follower count stopped being a reflection of fame. It became the absolute prerequisite. It's crazy because you would have incredible, talented actors losing roles to reality TV stars simply because the reality star had 5 million more followers. The studios wanted guaranteed marketing. So what do you do if you're an actor or a musician and your career is literally dying because your numbers aren't high enough? You cheat. You go to the dark web of marketing agencies and you buy an army. From the outside, it looked like a natural explosion of global connectivity, but behind the scenes, the ecosystem was profoundly sick. Millions of the fans liking, retweeting, and validating the biggest stars on Earth were nothing more than lines of code executing automated scripts. Bro, the audacity of the industry was staggering. You could literally pull out your credit card, pay $5,000, and wake up with the population of a small European country following your dog's Instagram account. It was cheap, it was fast, and for a few years, it was completely undetectable to the average user. The stars knew it was fake, the managers knew it was fake, but as long as the brands kept paying, nobody cared. They were all in on the heist. Once the demand for vanity metrics reached a fever pitch, a sophisticated underground industry rose to meet it. This wasn't just a few hackers in basements, this was a highly organized, multi-million-dollar global network of digital sweatshops known as click farms. This part is genuinely terrifying if you think about it. We picture bots as just software, but a lot of this fraud required physical hardware. There were literal warehouses, mostly in places with cheap electricity and lax labor laws, filled with thousands of phones wired to massive motherboards. A single operator sitting at a computer could control 10,000 phones at once. They would program these phones to create accounts, steal real people's profile pictures, and then deploy them to go follow Justin Bieber or Katy Perry. The economy of the click farm was ruthlessly efficient. They generated revenue by selling engagement packages to PR agencies, record labels, and aspiring influencers. But to make their fake accounts look legitimate to the platform's security algorithms, these bots had to behave like real humans. Exactly. If a bot only follows your aspiring indie pop band, the algorithm catches it and bans it immediately. So the click farms had to camouflage their bots. They programmed them to automatically follow the biggest A-list celebrities, Rihanna, Taylor Swift, Cristiano Ronaldo, so the accounts looked like normal everyday users. This means that even if a megastar didn't buy fake followers themselves, their accounts were becoming massive dumping grounds for millions of spam bots trying to look human. By 2014, the platforms were choking on their own fabricated success. The data was utterly polluted. Advertisers who were paying billions of dollars based on these metrics started realizing that their ads were being shown to millions of empty rooms. The brands finally woke up and realized they were getting scammed. You can't sell a $50 lipstick to a bot. Procter & Gamble and Unilever started threatening to pull hundreds of millions of dollars in advertising from these social networks because the numbers were total garbage. That was the tipping point. The social media platforms didn't purge the bots because it was the moral thing to do. They purged them because the advertisers were threatening to turn off the money printer. The executives in Silicon Valley had to make a choice: protect the egos of the biggest celebrities on Earth, or protect their own billion-dollar ad revenue. The choice was brutally simple. They decided to load the gun, and they didn't warn anyone before they pulled the trigger. You can buy the illusion of fame, but you can't buy immunity from the algorithm. The first major strike happened in December 2014, an event immortalized in internet history as the Instagram bloodbath. Without prior warning, Instagram executed a massive automated sweep, wiping out tens of millions of spam accounts. Seriously, if you were online that day, it was absolute pandemonium. It was like watching a stock market crash, but for human ego. People were refreshing their pages and watching their entire digital net worth evaporate in real time. It wasn't a gradual decline, it was an absolute cliff dive. The collateral damage at the top of the food chain was staggering. Justin Bieber, the most followed person on the platform, lost 3.5 million followers in a single night. Kim Kardashian lost 1.3 million. But the most humiliating blows were dealt to the mid-tier influencers who lost over 50% of their entire audience. Bro, the rapper Mace literally deleted his entire Instagram account because he went from 1.6 million followers down to 100,000. He lost 1.5 million fake fans. Akon lost 56% of his followers. You cannot recover from that level of public embarrassment. It is the digital equivalent of booking a massive stadium for a concert, bragging about it to everyone you know, and then the lights come up and there are only 12 people in the audience. The reckoning repeated itself 4 years later on Twitter. In July 2018, bowing to immense pressure regarding political bots and misinformation, Twitter locked and deleted tens of millions of suspicious accounts. In a single weekend, the top 100 most popular users lost an estimated 2% to 5% of their total followers globally. Twitter's purge was even more vicious because it affected politicians, journalists, and massive corporations. Katy Perry lost 2.8 million followers. Barack Obama lost over 2 million. Donald Trump lost hundreds of thousands. Even Twitter's own official account lost 7.7 million followers. It just goes to show how deeply infected the entire system was. Nobody was clean. As the sun rose the morning after these purges, the digital landscape was completely devastated. The playing field was abruptly leveled, but the immediate reaction from the celebrity elite wasn't humility or self-reflection. It was aggressive, desperate damage control. This is where the PR machines completely short-circuited. You can't put out a statement saying, "Yeah, sorry guys, turns out 40% of my fan base was a server rack in a warehouse." They had to scramble. They had to gaslight the public. They had to somehow convince us that the numbers dropping was a mistake, not a correction. In the immediate aftermath of the purges, a universal, highly coordinated defense strategy emerged among the influencer class: the glitch narrative. Oh my god, the excuses were legendary. Every single D-list celebrity and reality star who just got exposed started tweeting the exact same thing. Hey guys, Instagram is having a massive glitch right now. They are accidentally deleting real accounts. My team is on the phone with them trying to get my 2 million followers back. Spoiler alert, they were never on the phone with anyone, and those followers were never coming back. Publicists worked overtime to spin the narrative. They planted stories in gossip magazines suggesting their clients were the victims of targeted malicious attacks by rival fandoms using botnets to get them suspended. They blamed algorithmic errors. They blamed everyone except the companies selling the followers. It's a PR masterclass in delusion. The celebrities themselves were so deeply addicted to the vanity metric that some of them actually believed their own lies. There were influencers who literally threatened to sue Instagram for lost wages because their follower counts dropped below the threshold required by their brand contracts. Think about the audacity. You want to sue a platform because they deleted the fake audience you were using to defraud advertisers. It is peak late-stage capitalism. But the brands weren't buying the excuses anymore. The Great Purges acted as a massive audit for the influencer economy. Advertisers finally had the data to see who possessed genuine, kinetic influence and whose empire was built entirely on a foundation. And this is the brutal reality of the cleanup operation. The brands pulled their contracts. If you were an influencer who lost half your audience in the bloodbath, your rate for a sponsored post didn't just drop by half, it went to 0. Because the brands realized that if you lied about the first 50% of your audience, the other 50% was probably garbage too. The purge completely annihilated the middle class of the influencer ecosystem. Only the absolute titans, the people whose fame existed outside the internet, survived the fallout. The era of the raw follower count was officially dead. The social media giants had regained control of their platforms, but they replaced the bot cartels with something far more powerful and far more dictatorial. They killed the bots, sure, but they didn't give the power back to the users. They handed the entire internet over to the algorithm. If the Great Purges were a PR disaster for the elite, they were also the crucible that forged the modern attention economy. The tech companies realized that a static follower count was too easily manipulated. To protect their ad revenue, they had to shift the paradigm from audience size to active engagement. You'd think the purges would make social media more authentic. It should have been a reset button for reality, but it actually just made the game infinitely harder. Today, nobody cares if you have 10 million followers if your TikTok only gets 12,000 views. The platform stopped showing your content to your own followers and started forcing everyone to compete in the algorithmic arena every single day. The follower count is dead. Engagement is the new god. The bloodbaths of 2014 and 2018 killed the guaranteed audience. Today, the biggest stars in the world can post a video that completely flops because the algorithmic feed doesn't respect legacy fame. It only respects watch time. As for the millions of deleted bot accounts, they exist only as ghosts in the server logs of tech history, but the psychological damage they inflicted on the culture remains. They trained a generation to equate numerical volume with human value, a trauma the internet has yet to recover from. It really is wild and honestly, pretty tragic. We spent half a decade worshiping people whose popularity was artificially inflated by server farms in completely different time zones. The celebrities who lost 50 million fans overnight were just the symptoms of a diseased system. They bought the script, they played the part, and then the platform canceled the show. Without the purges, we might have just kept believing the lies forever. Instead, we woke up to a reality where everyone is fighting for survival, one algorithmically approved video at a time. In the end, the 50 million deleted fans weren't a tragedy. They were exactly what they were designed to be. A highly optimized, perfectly executed illusion that generated billions of dollars in advertising revenue before being quietly swept under the digital rug. And in the attention economy, that's as real as it gets. Honestly, I still think about the celebrities who had panic attacks during the 2014 bloodbath. The absolute dread of watching the curtain get pulled back on your own fake life. It's a modern Shakespearean tragedy. But hey, at least they still gotta keep the brand deals they secured before.